Welcome back to The Big Show. It's always nice to talk to an old friend. And I know last time I said this to you, Ed Byrne, you were offended and you said that we weren't friends.
But at this stage now, we're at the very least close work colleagues.
Well, who's stalking who? Because we were last talking when you were in Montreal. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was all right. You know, it's a bit. Montreal's one of those things where you just kind of have to go there without any expectations whatsoever. I found myself at one point. I was walking through the lobby and I wasn't feeling great, and I bumped into a woman who was a TV producer, and she started talking to me, and I didn't even try. Like, I didn't even go, you know, we should do lunch. We should, you know. I was even like, oh, look, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to say, oh, you seem very interesting, we'll have a chat, you'll probably pay for an omelette, and then I'll just go back to Britain and nothing will come of it. And, you know, I've become a bit jaded. It's still nice to be asked, it's still nice to go. There's something about playing Montreal that really makes you feel like a world-class comedian, you know, and that it's supposed to be the sort of the top, you know, comics in the world and all that. So there's something flattering about being asked back again and again. So I think they're probably still coasting on that goodwill that we have towards them to get the people that they get to go all the way over to Montreal to do it.
Do you think that they think comedians aren't that classy because they're comedians, therefore they don't have to treat you as well as, let's say, theatre people or big stars?
It used to be that it was the festival to do, and everyone who went got a like at least a holding deal, if not a development deal, and that meant that everybody just wanted to play it, and the people who were pampered were the industry folk. The whole festival was built from the ground up to be an industry festival, and we are there to showcase ourselves and lay ourselves, put out our wares, our stall in front of the industry. It's less exciting now because people aren't really getting the deals, and you don't really need a festival like that anymore because you can just go to YouTube and see me. You don't have to. No, neither of us has to travel. And I think that maybe it's not as enticing as it used to be, but I still go when asked, you know.
And it's interesting because once you're there, you don't get to do that long. I mean, you get to see a lot of comedians. That's the great thing about the festival. When you go to a show, you'll get to see 5 or 6, but you've only got 12 minutes to hit as hard, haven't you?
Yeah. Generally, most people only get to do between 7 and 10 minutes. They're increasingly putting on one-person shows over there. You know, it's not like they're trying to turn it into the new Edinburgh Fringe, but they are increasingly doing hour-long shows. And it was a bunch of them this year. Yeah.
Are the comedians that actually say, no, I don't want to go for whatever reason? Or is it the kind of thing that if you want to be a big star in comedy, you really have to go?
I don't think you have to go to be a big star in comedy, but I think all of the big stars have gone. And I can't think of anyone who hasn't. And they either will pay you. Like, I'm sure John Cleese got paid a fair bit to host a gala this year. But I mean, yeah, Bill Cosby was there, for God's sake. You know, it's everyone still goes, and you so often, like, we were just watching in my house just the other night. We watched a special feature on the DVD of season 7 of Family Guy, which was a live Family Guy at the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal. You know, so they do get whatever they want. Yeah, these comedy festivals over there, and it's the same thing in Aspen. I remember the first time I went to Aspen. Which, you know, that has the thing of the industry go because they get to ski. And I think it was myself, Eddie Izzard, and Monty Python were the 3 acts from this side of the Atlantic that went and did that. So, yeah, these comedy festivals still get whoever they want, pretty much.
There was an interesting thing at that gala performance with John Cleese where we sat there and a man came out and said, sorry, John's not well tonight, he won't be performing. And we all laughed. We thought it was a wonderful joke until we realised, no, he really wasn't going to be performing.
Yeah. And then what they did was they had a special all-star gala that they put on the Saturday or Sunday night. And they got him to host that. And everybody who had tickets to the John Cleese gala got to go to this other gala as well. But what was quite odd is they got to see him introduce the acts that they saw at the British gala. So I'm doing links introducing them despite them not being there, just so they could film it.
That's brilliant. All right, let's get back to you. The last time we did a proper interview was a year ago, and I was talking to you about what you talk about on stage. And it really was about women and then being married. How are you a year on? Because things have changed.
Things have changed, but the show hasn't greatly, to be honest with you. I'm still been touring the same show since I spoke to you a year ago, because the show that I was doing, Different Class, has turned out to be the little show that could, and it's I don't know what it is, my stock has continued to rise or whatever it is, and I've just finished touring it again. 4th of December. It was when the tour finally finished, and I stopped doing that show for the last time. It has now been committed to DVD and is available. So it is. Yeah, I was basically doing the same show that we spoke about a year ago. The difference is now it's available to take home and keep, whereas before it was only available to go and watch.
So that's my next question then. How do you do for a year the same act? I know things can change because you're a live comedian. It's not like you're following a script. But essentially, people want to hear the same show because it must be good enough. That's why it's still running.
Yeah, and, if you think of new jokes, you hold them back and save them for the next show. People might occasionally go and see you twice on the same tour, and they know because it's the same poster and all that. They expect it's going to be, largely the same show. But if they go and see you 2 different tours in a row, then they expect different material, and that's where you've really got to make sure you're doing the new stuff. So I kind of hold back on any new jokes I think of. I go, right, that's like I have a little funny story about something that happened in New Zealand this year while I was touring this show, and I've got to that's going to be the opening now for the next show. But the temptation to do it live when you've got it when it's new, especially because, like you say, how do you keep it fresh? Well, throwing in new stuff is a very tempting way to keep it fresh. But just as I say, then you get confused. Then the next tour you're going, okay, now I did that. Did I do that joke in Wellingborough? Because Wellingborough was late on in the tour, and so I keep it fresh just because. I always liken it to watching a film that you've seen before, but watching it with someone who hasn't seen it. You might have a favourite film. If somebody comes round to my house, I'll be like, "What? You've never seen Midnight Run? We have to watch Midnight Run." And even though I've seen it a million times, because I'm watching it with someone who hasn't seen it before, it's like seeing it anew. And it doesn't change at all, I can tell you. And if it did, it would be very weird. So it's a bit like that. Like I'll go on stage and I'll go, I've heard these jokes before, I've told them before, but the audience hasn't heard them, and that makes them new for me.
How do you know that what you're doing is an original thought? Because that's the one thing you don't want to be criticised, isn't it? I'm a guy who nicks material.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a tricky one, and you do find yourself like thinking of a joke and then phoning your mates, your comedy mates, and going, has anyone done this? Because sometimes some jokes will just stare you in the face, and when you think of it, you'll go, surely somebody's thought of that. And sometimes somebody else has. I remember thinking of a joke about Virgin Trains. Let's say the word effed, shall we? And I remember saying, I know why they're called Virgin Trains because I haven't been on one. All of the staff just can't be effed, you see. But then I saw Tim Clark, a comedian, do a joke about, I don't know why they're called Virgin Trains because they're clearly effed, and that was too similar, but he had been doing his first, so I had to just do the noble thing and go, right, I'll have to drop mine, and you just that. And some people, sometimes it's like a game of chicken. Sometimes people don't drop a routine knowing full well that somebody else is doing one that's the same. I have a routine about when you lose your mobile phone in your house, and so you phone it, and then you pick up your mobile phone and go, oh, one missed call, and I've been doing that for years, and it's on a very well known comedian's DVD right now.
Are you not tempted to pick up the phone and leave them a little message and another one missed call?
I'm pretty sure he's been told, and just kind of gone, I don't care, I'm more successful than you are. So,
does hierarchy matter? I mean, if you are the bigger star, is it not the case that more people are going to think it's his than yours?
Well, that's the problem for me, because it's a joke I don't really do anymore. The only time I'll do it is if a mobile phone goes off in the audience. Then it's just nice to just have it there. It's nice to have a good mobile phone joke to do about a mobile phone going off when one goes off in the crowd. And it is something, that I'm going to have to drop that joke, because otherwise people will go, that's not your joke.
Life's just not fair sometimes.
No, it's not.
Now, what I was thinking was, when you interview somebody time after time after time, it gets a bit boring, like doing the live show. So I was thinking, tell me something we've never talked about before, or something I don't know about you.
I have a new car. Yeah, I have an SL350. That's quite exciting. And the first day I went to the first thing I did, I arrived on the Friday morning, and my driveway had been dug up because the supply pipe of water to my house was leaking. So I had plumbers and diggers in my yard, and they had just filled it all in when my shiny new car arrived. And the only thing I did was take my wife to the post office and back, which wasn't very much. And then the following morning, and then I went and to reverse my brand new Mark out of the driveway, and it sank in the driveway because the pipe hadn't been fixed correctly, and where the trench had been filled in was just a quagmire. And I had to phone the RAC and get them to tow me out of my own driveway. So that was, and I have another car. I have a Golf as well, which I couldn't use either because my new car was now blocking the driveway by being sunk in it. So yeah, it was all fun and games at my house the day my new car got its maiden voyage.
Don't you think it's kind of pitiful that God's writing funnier jokes than you are these days?
Yeah.
It's disappointing. Is the car all right now? Did you get it fixed and towed out?
It's fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It's fine. That's what I keep telling myself. I haven't looked on the underside of it, but I think it's fine.
Let's talk about the DVD and then let's give you a plug for that. It's called Different Class. We just talked about the show that it is. You talk about your wife a lot. Does she mind?
No, not really. And if this DVD sells well, I'll get her a car and then she won't be able to complain at all. No, she doesn't really mind. There's only a couple of jokes in there. There's a joke in there about... excuse me. There's a joke about how you kind of... A woman... Basically, there's a joke in there that implies that my wife made more of a noise than she actually did about who we could invite to the wedding. And it was one of those things where... I know that it resonates with people, this notion of the woman gets to invite whoever she likes, and she also gets to invite whoever she likes. The man doesn't get to invite who he likes. Basically, is this sort of notion, and it wasn't really like that. That was one of the and I think that was the only thing she was particularly upset about, is that people really it makes it sound like she was like, he can't come, she can't come, they can't come, and she wasn't really that bad.
All right, let's do the big test. Was Vanessa Feltz invited?
No, there were.
Well, how could you have a wedding without Vanessa Feltz? She seems to be at all of them.
There were very few celebrities in inverted commas at my wedding. There was a few stand-up comics, and that was about it from show business.
And what about the speech? Do you have to worry about the level of content within it, of how many punchlines you're going to gain? I
regret not doing a funnier speech. Now, I've since been to a few other weddings, and not just at comedians' weddings, but where the groom has made a really funny speech, and I'm kind of annoyed at myself that I didn't. I had both my brother and my best man spoke. Darragh O'Brien was my best man, so he was obviously very funny. My older brother also very funny. And I thought I'll let them be funny, and I wasn't funny. But I should have now. I kind of regret. We've got tapes of it and everything. And I forgot we were recording it. I really should have been a bit funnier, I think.
I've been trying to think of why you're unique in comedy, and we see you all over the TV with people like Dara on Mock the Week, and we had him in the other week, and he was saying nice things about you.
Mock the Week. I only got that job because I was Dara's best man. That's something that a lot of people might not know about me. Mock the Week is one of those shows that I wouldn't even watch because it'd be on and I go, that's another one of those panel shows that doesn't have me on. Very bitter when it comes to these things. No, I just go, I'm not watching that. They've never. Who's he? Who's that? Who's Frankie Boyle? Never heard of him. Why is he on that show? That's what I'm like, So, and then the producer of the show was at Dara's wedding, and saw me do this funny stuff about Dara, and went, you should come on the show. And the best man speech is not supposed to be a TV audition. And then doing Mock the Week, and then, in a way, there's been a bit of. I guess also my act has gotten better again and stuff like that. But through doing Mock the Week, I've also been doing, Live at the Apollo and Have I Got News for You and all these other things that I hadn't been doing before. So I could probably trace back the resurgence of my career to being Dara's best man.
So it's more important then to have a good friend than to have great talent or a good career?
No, they all have to synchronise. That's the thing, yeah.
What I was going to talk to you about that is you've always struck me as being incredibly thin, and that doesn't necessarily go with being a stand-up comedian on the road. How do you manage it that you're not clinically obese like most of them?
I don't have a massive appetite. I find I can't really eat before a show because then I'm burping during the show. I don't really eat breakfast, which I should. Most important breakfast of the day, but and then after the show, you can, a lot of the time in sort of provincial towns, you can be really stuck for food. So that's why on the road it's very hard to get food, and so I don't.
So how are the rest of the guys so fat then?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know where they're going to get the food. Maybe you do eat unhealthily. I've never really been one for putting on a lot of weight, and I probably I have a bit of a pot, and I'm very skinny. I do sometimes find myself when I'm on the road just feeling myself getting unhealthier and unhealthier. but even, you can only I eat sandwiches all the time on the road because it's all you can get, because even McDonald's is closed most of the time when you're on your way home. I think they should bring in a law that at service stations, if the KFC or the Burger King or the McDonald's is closed, turn off the KFC sign, because I think it's very, very mean. You're on your way home, it's 11 o'clock, and you see some Golden Arches or the BK, and you go, let's stop here, and it's like, no, that's closed. There's only sandwiches. And
are you so miserable at that time of night, your heart starts racing and you get excited at the thought of all those calories?
I just, you're coming down after the show. The show's been lovely and all that, and you're in the car, and it's just, you think, right now it's just a 2-3 hour drive home, and God, I'm starving, and yeah, it's a little, you're on the come down. You're kind of like, sometimes you get a kind of a post show blues, where you, after about half an hour, you just start to just sink a bit, and the adrenaline wears off, and you realise how hungry you are because you haven't eaten now in hours, and a nice tasty burger that's not very good for you will lift your spirits. And then to get to the service station and find that that's not on offer, you can have a microwaved Rustler's burger. That's heartbreaking.
And very finally on the Mock the Week thing, congratulations not being too competitive. I was telling Dara last week, it gets a little bit too much, that programme, for me sometimes.
It is. Well, there's a number of reasons for that. One is it's the only show where they don't say, let's go to this team first. Really, that's what you think. That's all. That's been very funny. You've been very funny for 10 minutes. What does the other team think? They don't do that on Mock the Week. It's, now, what do all 6 of you think of this at once? and Darryl will be like, oh, and by the way, I'll be coming in on this as well. So what do all 7 of us think about this subject at the same time? Go. So that's why it's as ridiculously competitive as it is. That and the fact that it's 7 stand-up comics. It's not like 8 out of 10 cats. We've got, you've generally got maybe 4 stand-up comics and a couple of celebrities. It's not like Have I Got News for You, where you've got a journalist, a stand-up comic, a politician, and maybe a TV presenter. It's 7 stand-up comics all at the same time, trying to be as funny as each other, and all still trying to make a name for themselves. Like myself. I mean, Hugh not so much. Hugh does. Hugh. He does his. He has his sitcoms and he has things like that. He's not trying to slog DVDs or anything like that. And he's been around long enough that he's not. He's the only one probably that's not trying to make a name for himself. But Frankie, myself, Russell, Andy, we're all, and the other people who do the show, like Mark Watson and Stuart Francis, the other sort of semi-regular. We've got DVDs to sell. We're going on tour. We're still trying to, we're still on the up in our careers, and it's Mock the Week is an important part of that career plan for every one of us. Yes, that's how cynical we all are. And if you sit there like a lemon, then people go, oh, Ed Byrne didn't say much. He's clearly not as funny as I thought he was. Or Ed Byrne didn't say much. He's clearly exactly as funny as I always suspected he was. That's why it's a battle.
And Frankie Ball, I've got him on Thursday. Can you help me with how I should handle him? Because he says peculiar things like he wants to stop doing comedy in case one day he's not funny.
Well, I understand he has gone on record as saying that after 40 you lose your edge. But I think that's more of a worry if you're an edgy comic. My edges are fairly rounded anyway, so I'm hoping I'll continue into my 50s. But I can certainly see his point, and there's certainly something about as comics, again, I think people can run out of things to say, but and certainly your rate of writing can slow down. But I think it's it's a little pessimistic and a little defeatist to say that after 40,
just give up.
You're done. Yeah.
Now, on the DVD, apparently the most exciting thing, other than you, is your extras.
Well, it's nice having extras on a DVD. On the first one I did, Pedantic and Whimsical, there was a DVD commentary by my brother Paul, Brendan Burns, Andrew Maxwell, and Glenn Wool, 3 stand-up comics, very good friends, and it's just the 4 of them just slagging me off. And it's really, really quite vicious. And it's the full length of the DVD is just them, just slagging me off. And it's quite funny. On this DVD, it's me and Jimmy Carr are sitting watching the DVD. So it's actually it's what I call an in-vision commentary. And it's just us watching. And there's really very little comment about the DVD made whatsoever. It's really just an interview. It's an interview that lasts for 2 hours. So that's kind of fun. The one thing that I was really annoyed that I didn't put on the DVD, here's a funny thing, I made this for the DVD, was I took all the swear words and edited them all together and just made like a 2-minute thing of just swearing. And it's just swear words. And it was really quite funny. It was almost musical. And it pushed the DVD over into an 18. Which was weird because it's only the swear words that were already on it. It was a 15, and then I put this on as a DVD extra, and they said, "Oh, that's going to make it an 18." So I had to take it off again in order to keep the DVD as a 15, because just duplicating the swear words made it 18.
Can't you put them on a website or something? I'm sure there's people who would love to hear them.
I am. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it out. I think on YouTube. Just put it out on the net as a viral, and I think that'll be quite fun.
And Gary Barlow's writing songs for everybody at the minute. Can't you get him to write a tune to the swear words?
That's an excellent idea. It's not that musical. It's not quite as rhythmical as that. And I don't think I think it might be just a little bit edgy for Barlow.
And have you returned the favour for Jimmy? Are you going to be on his DVD?
No, I think his DVD's already gone to print, so no. I would if he'd asked, but I'm sure he could probably find somebody more famous than I to do it for him,
And what do you have to pay Jimmy to sit there with you for 2 hours, slagging yourself off and talking about the world?
You know what? Jimmy will do anything for a cup of tea. He's tea mad, that boy. Seriously. 2 sugars, very milky. You wouldn't have thought that about him. He's quite the sort of, he seems quite posh. But when it comes to tea, he is a builder. All
right, listen, the new DVD's in your stores now. It's called Different Class. Ed Byrne's one of my favourite comedians and always funny. And you try hard and you seem to enjoy it. And you're not wrapped up in this negative stuff like so many are. You seem to enjoy life. That's nice.
Well, I do. It's weird. I am funnier when I'm enjoying myself. When I'm in a happy, stable home relationship, that is when I seem to be at my funniest. But unfortunately, that's when I'm therefore in the most demand, and that's where I have to go on tour. That's the very time. So the very time where I'm happiest at home is the time where I have to leave my home to go and tell people my jokes. Because even though my act is mainly whinging, it's complaining, it's getting angry, but it's sweating the small stuff. But it's a lot easier to focus on getting angry about stupid little things in the minutiae of life when at your base level you're happy. When I've been either in an unhappy relationship or even when I've been single, I've not come up with as good stuff. I think.
I think the Jeremy Kyle show could be for you next. Not Mock the Week or Have I Got News for You. Try Jeremy Kyle.
Jeremy Kyle. You think that's just invent a problem?
I think he could shout at you and help you through these troubles.
And tell me what happens to people like me where he's from. Where I'm from, somebody like you gets a kicking.
Ed Byrne, thank you very much.
Cheers.